Hey, so if we're looking at research methods, it gets confusing really quick because we think that the research methods might be like the most important thing, but they're really tools that help us describe what we're looking at with like populations or phenomenon or inherent meaning that people are attaching to things. So let me show you a quick way of getting into research related to some of these research methods. So the first thing, go to libutah.edu, make sure you're logged in, otherwise you might not have access to electronic sources. This main search is called the catalog or Primo or all you need or usearch, depending on when you used it. But think of this as kind of a mix of some databases, a little bit of web stuff, some of our print stuff. Go to Advanced Catalog Search. And one of the first things I'm going to start out with is semiotics. You know what? I've already copied this. Semiotic. Oh, I had it. There we go. First tip. If you type it in exactly the way a particular textbook does, you might be missing another iteration of it. So semiotic or semiotics or semiotic analysis or analyses, or instrument, or observation. A lot of those might be used by different people, and they might get tripped up in the catalog. So it's good to put like an or in between to catch those extra ones. Or you can put a little star if it's semiotic or semiotics. So the first thing that I want you to be aware of, and I'm looking at another monitor, is that if you're doing interviews, that might be looking at different things than semiotics. Or if you're doing participant observation, that's not necessarily an interview. You're just kind of spying on somebody. So the first thing is, out of the millions of things in our library catalog, what are semiotics looking at? Well, 130,000 things. That's a lot. How do we narrow that down? Well, this is where you would get into the thing that you're interested about in your communication research. So are you looking at people? Are you looking at culture? I'm going to look at food. Notice this little and over here. So now we're looking at semiotics, but then we're contextualizing it where we just want stuff with food. That narrows it down significantly. So all of a sudden we're looking at maybe like some of the wrong things. This is not a smart search. It only looks at the letters that you type in there. But here, food is the Asian way of showing love, a semiotic analysis. Dun, dun, dun. All of a sudden we have a population, people of Asia, a cultural interpretation, and then a claim of a semiotic analysis. This is how you'd find supporting evidence for what you're looking for. There's horse meat, compost, Studio Ghibli. I love the scene in Spirited Away where the parents turn into pigs because they're eating at the buffet. If you haven't seen that movie, it's like one of the most celebrated of all time. If you wanted to add elements of food that might not have showed up, restaurant, or restaurants, or grocery, or you could do a star for cat grocery or groceries or grocery stores, or street food, or food truck, star. You could throw in any number of synonyms related to it. Because we want this to be reproducible, it's not an automatic thing where it's going to grab those synonyms like out on the open web, but you have to deliberately list them with synonyms or related terms. So we go from 1,500, it should get bigger, to 1,700. And if you get too much of something, like I don't really want to talk about food, I want to find the environment that food is marketed in, I can just get rid of food and look at restaurant or grocer. And all of a sudden I have 268, some in Turkish. Creating value, the theory and practice of marketing semiotics research, that's not a case study. That's like a textbook. The chef film, blah, 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 blah. This is where you would cruise through and you'd look for answers. What are some other examples? Well, if you look at rhetoric or rhetorical analysis, that could also be debate or discourse analysis. Or maybe that's a separate one altogether in the textbook. Oh, it is. Never mind. But you could look at different debates going on. So this wouldn't be looking at symbols. It'd be like analyzing what people are arguing about. Another one, survey or surveys, you could look at, instead of looking at a problem or an object, you could look at a particular population, like Gen Z. And then every time you add a new line and add keywords, it would narrow it down further and further. Survey or surveys, let's do social media or TikTok or Instagram. Do we have any? Oh, still 227. So you can see how people that self-identify as Gen Z in Panama think about Instagram and TikTok, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As you go through these things, let me know if I can help. If you need more keywords, sometimes it's handy to go to Gemini or ChatGPT and say, what are some of the ideas related to semiotics? And it might give you some of those tips that you can then go back in and use as a keyword in the library catalog.